A Fraser Institute study on generosity in Canada and the United States finds Canadians are not donating to charity like they used to. The study found fewer Canadians were donating to charity and were giving less. 2 years ago, 21.8% of Canadians made donations compared to 25.1% in 2004. We're giving a smaller proportion of our income to charity. Manitobans were the most generous, New Brunswick the least, while Quebec ranked last in average dollar donation. To talk more about this study, we're joined by Ben Eisen, Senior Policy Analyst for the Fraser Institute. Good to have you with us, Ben.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us more about this and how you go about measuring generosity.
Yeah, well, what we do in our study is we measure private monetary philanthropy or charitable giving. So what we look at is we look at tax receivable donations to charities in Canada and the United States and within each province and state, and we compare them to one another, and then we look at trends over time. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at private money donations that can be recorded on tax returns.
Trends over time, I want to talk a little bit more about that. What are you seeing trending now that you didn't see, say, in 2004?
Well, there's a number of important developments over time. As you mentioned, there's a gap between Canada and the United States. Americans, on average, more give to charity, and the actual dollar donations are larger. So there's a gap between Canada and the United States. And then within Canada, there's something of a downward trajectory. Fewer Canadians are giving than was the case about 5 years ago, or as you mentioned, a little bit further back. So there's a slight downward trajectory. And again, there's a gap between Canada and the United States, both in terms of the number of people who give and the depth of charitable giving.
Any idea why and the reasoning behind the downturn?
No, that's not something that we looked at in our study. We think that measuring and analyzing what's been actually happening, calculating the trends and comparing jurisdiction, this is an important project because the charitable sector in Canada and the United States deliver a great wide range of services that are of tremendous importance, that have a big impact in Canadian and American communities. So simply measuring what's happening in terms of private monetary charity in Canada and the United States and within jurisdictions and over time, that's the purpose of this project, to simply measure what's happening. We don't engage in analysis or in my case, hear speculation about why the trends are what they are, but we simply can document what we observe and compare it to what's happening elsewhere in North America.
Why the gap between Canada and the U.S.?
Well, again, there's a number of possible, there's a robust research literature about the different factors that drive charitable giving. So some of those may have an impact. For instance, as jurisdictions become more affluent, more people donate to charity, and on average there's a higher level of personal income in the United States. That's one possible reason. There's a number of different things that turn up in the literature as possible explanations. But again, the purpose of this study isn't to provide answers to the question of why one jurisdiction gives more than another, but rather simply to document the differences, to look both within Canada, within the United States, and comparing the two countries to see if we can notice any important trends or any important differences between the two places. So in the United States, charitable giving is higher, a larger number of people give, but our report doesn't answer the question of precisely why that might be the case.
And you want people to leave with what after they read this with regards to charity and giving?
Well, certainly to be aware of the trend, that there are fewer Canadians giving now than was the case 5 years ago, to be aware of differences between jurisdictions and to recognize that it's not fixed, that there are important differences from place to place and over time, that these things evolve, and to think about exactly what the charitable sector does, all of the important services that the charitable sector provides within Canadian and American communities, and to be conscious of the trends that have been taking place and to be aware of differences across times and places.
Ben Eisen, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.